Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Adam Lemerise, and with me is Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. Please feel free to leave your questions and comments in the chat room below, and we'll be happy to answer them on the air. Before we get started, we want to wish all the servicemen and women across the world a happy Veterans Day. All the special men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice so we can enjoy our great freedom. Also, we want to send well wishes to the families and friends who lost a service member in the terrorist attack at Abbey Gate outside the airport in Kabul, Afghanistan. Tonight we'll be discussing the new details regarding the clash at the Coliseum. Marc Marquez's season comes to an end. Matt White's Grid World Motorsport League update, and Kyle Kirkwood is joining the NTT IndyCar Series. So we'll get started discussing the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum format.
Yes, and yesterday NASCAR announced the official format for the exhibition race at the LA Coliseum. The Busch Light Clash will be a 2-day event, Saturday, February 5th and Sunday, February 6th. 40 cars will be allowed to enter, 36 charter teams and 4 open teams. It'll be the debut of the new next-gen Cup car. We'll see practice, single car qualifying, heat races, and a last chance qualifying race, followed by the 150-lap main event. However, only 23 cars will make the Busch Light Clash main event. Nobody is locked in except for the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Larson, who could get in based on a final spot provisional. And as you see right here on the screen, we'll have practice sessions and single car qualifying on Saturday. And then the single car qualifying will set the field for the heat races. Then Sunday evening at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox, coverage begins for the heats, a total of 4 heat races, 25 laps apiece. The top 4 finishers in each heat will advance to the 150-lap main event, so 16 drivers will lock themselves in. Everyone else will get a final shot in the pair of last chance qualifiers later in the evening. Each last chance qualifier race 50 laps each. Top 3 finishers in each LCQ will advance to the Busch Light Clash, bringing us up to a total of 22 starters. 23rd and final starter will get in on a provisional based on the highest driver in the 2021 point standings who failed to race their way in. And the format for the Busch Light Clash seems so simple and straightforward compared to whatever the Texas All-Star race was. I remember there was a lot of confusion, and many didn't even know what was happening. Not even your diehard race fan could explain the Texas All-Star race format. And personally, I didn't explain it. I didn't understand it either. It was way too complicated in my opinion. But I feel NASCAR made the Busch Light Clash format so simple enough for even the casual viewer, they can understand what's going on. First question of the night, Adam, what's your overall thoughts on this format, and is it best for NASCAR to just keep it simple?
I like this format. It takes me back to being at your local short track on a Friday night or Saturday night, because that's how a lot of these NASCAR drivers got started. I think that for the All-Star race next year, they should use this format. Like you said, Kobe, it's so simple. Even your casual NASCAR fan would understand it. I'm kind of glad they're using this format. It's going to be so interesting to see how everyone does in the LA Coliseum next year. And to me, this format should be used at the All-Star race each season. You said that last year's All-Star format was confusing. They should use this format at the All-Star race next year as well. And maybe down the road, if they have another special event, use this format. It's so simple. Even a child, even your casual NASCAR fan will understand. And probably even a child.
Yes, I thought the format was really simple. I really like the format, like you were saying. It reminds you a bit at your Saturday night short track, and I do think that keeping it simple its best. And going back to the Texas All-Star race, that format was really, really crazy with all of the averages and all of the other stuff that was going on. Even for your diehard NASCAR fan who's watched this sport for 2, 3, even 4 decades, they couldn't even tell you what was going on in this. And so if you're a NASCAR fan who watches 38 weeks out of the year, can't even tell you what's going on. How do you expect someone who's watching NASCAR for the first time to be able to pick up on everything going on? But this format, as you can see right here on the screen again, it just looks so simple. Everyone minus Kyle Larson have has to race their way in. I think that's what people really like. Although it's not like Indy 500 qualifying where nobody is locked in, it's really nice to see that the Busch Clash is definitely going to mean something. Where you're going to have to go out there and race it. It doesn't matter if you're a Chase Elliott, a Brad Keselowski, a William Byron, an Austin Cindric, anything like that who's going to be racing in Cup next year. All that matters is that you find a way to lock yourself in to the Busch Clash, try to get in that top 16. And if you can't during the heat races, get in the last chance qualifier. And I'm sure it will be really surprising if we see one of those big names get left off the list. Imagine if Chase Elliott has a speaking hypothetically, let's say Chase Elliott has a bad qualifying day, has a bad heat race, goes to the last chance qualifier, can't get in, but the drivers who finished ahead of him in the championship 4 also didn't make it in, and they get in, and then oh boy, that is going to lead to some really crazy preseason drama. So definitely the Busch Clash at the LA Coliseum going to be something that everyone is going to want to see. And simply calling this exhibition race from Daytona to Los Angeles a big deal is a major understatement. Over the years, this event lost true meaning. It became a wreck fest in recent years on the oval, but it was a good show last year, moving it, earlier this year, good show last year, moving it from the oval to the Daytona road course, now racing in a stadium in the heart of the LA market. While the heat races and last chance qualifiers can be watched on Fox, the coverage is shifting over to FS1 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the main event. And while it's a positive that some of the action will be shown on Fox, Adam, do you think it's a mistake to put the main event on FS1, especially if NASCAR wants to attract new viewers in the primetime slot in the East Coast?
Yeah, I believe it should have stayed overall on Fox. I mean, you think about it. Fox in February. Yeah, the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. Then you have the Super Bowl, which would be on Fox. And then you have the Daytona 500 on Fox. So I think all the action should have been on Fox overall. But I believe a lot of people will switch over to FS1 for the Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum. It's going to be one of the coolest things. And what a way to kick off the month of February with this, the Super Bowl, and then the Daytona 500. If you're a sports fan, a NASCAR fan, you'll definitely be glued to your TV over those next few weeks. It's going to be action packed all around.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of sports fans are really looking forward to February. It's going to be a really fun two-week stretch. Well, actually 3-week stretch when we think about the Busch Clash, the Super Bowl in LA, and then the 2022 Daytona 500. It's gonna definitely be a fun 3 weeks if you like football and racing. And I actually, in a way, I think it's kind of flip flop. I think it should have been the other way around with the heat races and last chance qualifying at FS1 and then switch over to Fox for the main show. But I understand that the Sunday night Fox primetime lineup is really important to Fox, and it definitely has to hold high priority over the NASCAR race, unfortunately. So maybe the time slot for the heat race and the last chance qualifier was the only thing that Fox could get NASCAR. It's unfortunate the main event can't be shown on, as they like to say, Big Fox. But you made up a good point, Adam. People really like what they see on Fox. They can just switch over to FS1. But regardless, I think it's definitely going to be a fun night of first at the LA Coliseum.
Oh yeah, it's going to be what a way to start the 2022 NASCAR Cup season. And speaking of the NASCAR, and speaking of the 2022 NASCAR Cup season, yesterday Front Row Motorsports announced that they will be having a 2-car operation in the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season with the number 34 and 38 Ford Mustangs. Previously, it was announced by several media outlets that Front Row would be purchasing a charter from 2311 Racing, and their future being uncertain. Well, the talks fell through, and they are expected to be on the grid next season. This year's Daytona 500 champion, Michael McDowell, will return the number 34 Ford Mustang. However, Anthony Alfredo will not be back in the number 38 Ford Mustang after a difficult and challenging season in Cup. And thank you, Kobe. Alfredo will be exploring his options, so we will see a new driver at Front Row Motorsports next season. And also, the Camping World Truck Series team will be evaluated as well with Todd Gillen before making a final decision. Kobe, we know that there are a lot of NASCAR drivers out of a ride next season. So, who do you think could take over in the number 38 Ford Mustang at Front Row Motorsports?
To be honest, Adam, I haven't really given it much thought who could potentially move into that number 38 ride, but I guess your options have to be drivers who are out of Cup rides. Look at Ryan Preece, who's going to be at a JTG Darty Racing. They're going to be going down to that one full-time car next year. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Newman not returning to Raspberry Racing, and also Matt DiBenedetto, who's no longer going to be driving for the Wood brothers. So I think those are definitely the top 3 options right now, but it may be a while before we find out who actually gets the ride. I also wanted to clarify something you said. You said Michael McDowell will return, but Michael McDowell is actually expected to return. It hasn't been confirmed 100% whether or not that Michael McDowell will continue in that number 34 Ford Mustang, but definitely when we get an update on Front Row Motorsports driver lineup for 2022, we'll let you know right here on Grid Network. And last Wednesday on Grid Tonight, we told you about Marc Marquez's training accident. We saw him fall and suffer what was called a slight concussion. He missed last week's race at Portimao. We thought he might be able to come back for this weekend's season finale in Valencia. Unfortunately, Marquez's 2021 season is over. On social media, Marquez said he visited Dr. Sanchez Dalmau because he was suffering from a case of double vision like he had in 2011. In the end, they thought it was best for him to sit out the season finale too, especially if he's having trouble with his eyesight. Racing with double vision would almost certainly end in disaster. Marquez is taking himself seriously here, very seriously, but we know it must be hard for any racer to miss any races. However, last season, we questioned if he took himself seriously when he suffered the broken arm, had surgery, tried to return to racing only days after having surgery. And if you've ever experienced any type of surgery on your body, you know it takes a while to heal in order to return to your regular daily activities. Marquez returned too soon, later had another surgery, ruling out the remainder of the 2020 MotoGP season. To make matters worse, he had a third surgery in winter 2020, causing him to miss the start of the 2021 season. And you can't help but wonder how 2021 could have gone for Marc Marquez if he never attempted to make a comeback almost immediately after surgery, then possibly making things worse for him. We know drivers want to be out there every week no matter what, but sometimes you really need to consider taking a step back and reevaluate the situation. Other times, we need others, a supporting cast, to simply save us from ourselves. Adam, does it seem like Marc Marquez is taking his health more seriously now?
Yeah, I do. You're talking about a surgery that he had on his arm, and double vision is not something you want to jeopardize, especially if you're an auto racing driver or a motorcycle rider. Especially, if you're an auto racing driver or a motorcycle rider, you're racing at high speeds. And I think Marc Marquez was smart to not race in the season finale in Valencia, Spain. I know it's called speaking from a family member. My mom had to have a rod and two screws in her hip because she fell, and it took her a long time to get back where she is today. A lot of she went through a lot of training, so it's not easy, to have surgery and to come back. And I believe Marc Marquez is smart about saving himself and returning next year. As we all know, Fabio Quartararo is the MotoGP world champion. And you don't think he's going to have a target on his back for next season? Two riders to me to look out for is Marc Marquez, if he returns healthy, Johan Mir. Fabio Quartararo actually will not be racing will not have the number 1 on his bike. Instead, he'll have his number 20 for next year. So Marc Marquez is smart to not race in the season finale. And if there is a long off season for MotoGP, I believe he wants to get healthy and strong and go after Fabio Quartararo and claim the 2022 MotoGP World Championship.
Yes, I definitely think Marc Marquez could certainly be an early favorite for next year's MotoGP World Championship, try to prevent Fabio Quartararo from going back to back. And I really think Marc Marquez definitely learned from that first time when he broke his arm, had surgery, and tried to get back on the bike just days later. And you, Brent, brought up a good point, Adam. When people have surgery, you really need to take the time to heal. You just can't just have somebody cut open your arm to fix what was wrong and then expect to try to go out there and race. I still to this day I have no idea what Marc Marquez was thinking, but I do understand the fire to compete and keep going, because drivers, they want to be out there every week competing, and just like I said, I think sometimes we just need other people around us to save us from ourselves. And overall, really glad that Marc Marquez seemed to have learned from the situation. If you're not 100%, sit out until you're completely recovered, so you can go out there and be the best that you can be. Because racing with double vision on a motorcycle, that doesn't sound like a smart idea at all. And like Marc Marquez, now retired full-time NASCAR driver Michael Annett suffered a leg injury earlier this year. He had a stress fracture in his right femur, had surgery to fix it, tried to return to racing several weeks later, and then ended up re-injuring the leg in a workout and missed even more races. I guess you could argue that Annett wanted to be out there badly, because we later found out this would be his final season of racing. And at the time of his leg injury, we didn't know that he would be retiring at the end of this year. And if you know that this is it with the driver, you want to be out there every week, savoring every single moment, every minute, every second, because when it's over, it's over. If a driver gets injured in their final season, or they're right in the thick of a championship battle, do you think it influences how fast they get back on the track?
Yeah, I certainly do. I could understand, about Michael Annett, wanting to come back, and compete. He wasn't think of the NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship. He was in the playoffs. But like you said, Kobe, he had a leg injury. He tried to come back and re-injured it. I know it was his last full-time year in NASCAR, and he wanted to go out and contend for the Xfinity Series Championship. However, that didn't happen. All I can say is, I know if you're in the thick of the championship, I don't care who you are, and you get injured, the best thing to do is to heal up. I know it'll cost you a championship, but I think your health is more concerning than a championship.
Well said, Adam. I totally agree with you. Health is always more important than a championship. Although I'm sure some drivers out there would really hate to hear that, but it's the honest truth. I'd rather a driver be healthy, be able to live a full life after racing and enjoy life after racing instead of doing something that can really prevent that from happening. And before we move on, I wanted to briefly touch on another story we've been following since the Formula One U.S. Grand Prix. We remember Martin Brundle's infamous grid walk when he tried to interview rapper Megan Thee Stallion. She seemed really friendly and respectful towards Brundle, but her bodyguards wasn't going to let that interview happen. It caused a lot of mixed reactions among the public about celebrity access to the Formula One grid, and Formula One has reacted recently by banning bodyguards from being on the grid to prevent incidents like that from happening. Martin Brundle responded to the move on Twitter, as you can see right here, by saying, "For the avoidance of doubt, I don't care who visits the Formula One grid. The more the merrier. Talk to me, ignore me, shove, wave, hug, call me names, whatever makes you happy. All I ask is that you soak up the atmosphere, enjoy the privilege." And then he made it perfectly clear at the end, "I've not asked for any grid protocol changes, and it's not unusual for celebrities to have bodyguards to protect them from any potential threats." Some have criticized Formula One's reaction to the Megan Thee Stallion situation as gatekeeping, which means you prevent outsiders from feeling welcomed into your environment. Adam, do you think this move could prevent some future celebrity appearances at Formula One races?
No, I don't think it'll affect it at all. And Martin Brundle is a well-known, successful broadcaster with the Formula One coverage on Sky Sports. For those of you who don't know, Martin Brundle is also a former Formula One driver. He's also a former sports car driver. So he's been around the paddock for a long, long time, and you know, I believe we'll always see celebrities at Formula One races. If they want to be interviewed, sure, go for it. And if they don't want to be interviewed, uh, you know, all you can do is walk away and say, "Hey, I tried my hardest," and if they don't want to talk, they don't. They don't want to talk. Plain and simple. Um, we got so many celebrities at the Formula One race in Austin, Texas, at the U.S. Grand Prix, and we'll probably see a lot more celebrities next year when Formula One goes to Miami for the Miami Grand Prix. So I can understand about what happened on the grid, but I don't believe this will prevent celebrities attending any Formula One races in the future.
To be honest with you, Adam, I don't have like no idea how many celebrities bring bodyguards to the races in the first place. But I think Formula One making this reaction to the Megan Thee Stallion incident, I don't really see why this rule is necessary in the first place. And you brought up a really good point. If like say Martin Brundle goes to interview a celebrity, if they want to talk, great. I think the golfing star Roy McIlroy was kind enough to speak to Martin Brundle on the grid at the U.S. Grand Prix. Megan Thee Stallion actually spoke to Martin Brundle in a nice and respectful way before the bodyguard stopped that. I thought it was fantastic. And he's also tennis legend Serena Williams was on the grid as well. Martin tried to talk to her. She didn't want to talk, and that's perfectly fine as well. Celebrities don't owe anyone a response, just like all of us. We don't owe a response to them. All you can do is ask. Interview. They grant the interview. Great. They don't want to talk. Oh well, shrug your shoulders and you move on to the next thing. But overall, I agree with you. I don't really think it's gonna prevent a large number of celebrities from going to these Formula One races. I just think that this new rule to ban bodyguards is just silly and needs to be thrown out. It just doesn't make any sense to me personally. And looking at some news from NASCAR, on Monday, Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, or SMI, announced they've agreed to purchase Dover Motorsports, the company that owns Dover International Speedway and Nashville Super Speedway. It has a total equity value of $131.5 million and $3.61 per share. With those two tracks no longer being independently owned, this gives SMI 10 tracks they operate: Atlanta, Bristol, Charlotte, Kentucky, Las Vegas, New Hampshire, Sonoma, and Texas. Now Dover and Nashville. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens with those two tracks moving forward. Next, here's Matt White with the Grid World Motorsport League update.
Hi everybody, Matt White here from the Grid World Motorsport League. It's been a while, we're back to give you an update on what's been happening in the WML over the last couple of weeks. Let's recap quickly. Jamie Chadwick is the leader, the first female to top the Grid World Motorsport League, the W Series champion of 2021. She took the lead after that double victory she had at Circuit of the Americas when it was supporting the Formula One race for W Series, their season finale. So she is top on 19.63. Jane Van Gisbergen, who hasn't raced for many months because of the supercars shutdown in Australia, is in second position now, but has slipped away over the last couple of weeks, especially with that non-top 10 finish in the last race of the weekend, this past weekend at Sydney. 2 rounds down and 2 to go for supercars at Sydney Motorsports Park, of course, before they head off to Bathurst. And Max Verstappen jumped up to third position in the standings this week with that win in Mexico in the Grand Prix. So it's pretty much between those three. Timmy Hansen's close to points on Max, but they've got less rounds to go in World Rallycross, so we'll have to wait and see. The maths hasn't quite been done at my end yet to see who's going to end up as the champion, but it's probably between those three, and odds on that Chadwick, who hasn't got any races left, will finish the season on 19.63. Could well be our 2021 champion. We'll wait and see. Another busy weekend, of course, this weekend with the Brazilian Grand Prix. Of course, that counts double for F1 because the sprint on Saturday is classed as a race for us, so points will be awarded, and that again could help Max Verstappen in his quest to hunt down the 2 ahead of him. 3 races for supercars again, as I said. At Sydney this weekend, they're all day races this weekend before the 2 night races at a longer distance, 250k each, next week for the finale of the Sydney selection box, I suppose you could call it, over the last few weeks. So we'll keep you updated. We've got only 5 more weeks now left of scoring. The Abu Dhabi F1 weekend is our final weekend of scoring for the year, so lots going on, and we'll keep you updated over the next few weeks to see who will be the 2021 Grid World Motorsport League champion.
When Andretti Autosport's deal to buy the Alfa Romeo Formula One team fell through, Kyle Kirkwood's IndyCar hopes looked uncertain. Photo courtesy of IndyCar Media. If Andretti completed the Formula One purchase, the plan was to bring American driver Colton Herta to Formula One and have Kirkwood replace Herta in the number 26 Gamebridge Honda. With Andretti's Formula One aspirations over for now and Herta staying in IndyCar, there just wasn't any more room for Kirkwood, Colton Herta, Alexander Rossi, Roman Grosjean, and recent Indy Lights great Devlin DeFrancesco already complete the 4-car lineup, and Andretti is expected to fill the 5th car again at the Indy 500 at number 98 Honda for Marco Andretti. And Andretti released Kirkwood from his contract to explore other opportunities, and he decided to sign with AJ Foyt Racing, the graphic courtesy of the team. He'll be driving a number 14 Chevrolet, replacing Sebastian Bourdais, who you can see right here in the photo taken by Doug Matthews. In a video press conference with the media earlier today, team president Larry Floyd said Kirkwood's contract is only a 1-year deal, so the American driver will have the option to return for another season after his rookie year, help the team grow if he feels like it's worthwhile and perform well. And he also has an option if he does that, he can potentially go off to a bigger team in 2023. Adam, what should we expect from Kyle Kirkwood and AJ Foyt Racing in 2022?
Oh, it's going to be I believe it'll be a challenging year for him. He's Kyle Kirkwood's not in a top team. He's not at Penske. He's not at Andretti Autosport. He's not at Chip Ganassi. He's at AJ Foyt Racing. With that name, AJ Foyt, he's one of the greatest IndyCar drivers that's ever lived. So I think we could see Kyle Kirkwood compete for top 5s and top 10s. Maybe down the road, we could see him win if everything holds up. Maybe toward the end of the season, but I think Kyle Kirkwood will compete for top 5s and top 10s next year in AJ Foyt Racing in 2022. And I'll say it's going to be cool to see how all the Indy Lights drivers going to IndyCar next year do. Dylan DeFrancesco, Kyle Kirkwood, and David Malukas. And we also have Christian Lundgaard. We'll see how each of those rookies do. Could we see one of those rookies in victory lane next year? could happen.
Yes, next year's IndyCar rookie class is going to be incredibly strong, especially with all of the drivers that's already been announced to be joining the grid. We're going to have quite a lot of rookies on the grid, more than normal, and we still haven't completed the IndyCar lineup for next year, so we could very well see more rookies. But overall, 2022. I'll say maybe Kyle Kirkwood, AJ Foyt Racing could get maybe one or two top tens, but with the way the program is now, I don't know if I want to give them a top five yet. I feel like that'd be a little bold prediction right now. But Larry Foyt right now, the entire team, they're working really hard to surround Kyle Kirkwood with a lot of talented engineers, bringing in new people to the organization because looking at Kyle Kirkwood, everything he's accomplished in the career, he looks like that once in a generation talent that you can really build your entire team around. I think this is a huge win for AJ Foyt Racing to get Kyle Kirkwood. And I understand previously they wanted to keep Sebastian Bourdais with the organization in some way because they really felt like his knowledge, his years of experience were very beneficial to the organization. And it doesn't look like Bourdais will be going with AJ Foyt Racing now with Don Kelly expected to return to the other car in the four. As for a third car, potentially if the funding is there, but probably unlikely. So I mean that Bourdais' time racing on AJ Foyt is most likely over. But when you're looking at Sebastian Bourdais and Kyle Kirkwood, who could very much be the next big thing in IndyCar competition, the young gun, I think you definitely have to side with him. And I think at first maybe some growing pains for Kirkwood since he's not going to be driving for some of the big teams in IndyCar. I I think maybe next year he can shoot for finishing inside the top 15. I think that would be a worthy goal for him in that AJ Foyt operation. But given how talented Kirkwood is, it would not surprise me if he's able to accomplish a lot more. And if you've been following Kyle Kirkwood's career so far, you definitely know he's the real deal, dominating the road to Indy ladder system. He's won at every level of competition. He won championships in Formula 4, Formula Regionals America, USF 2000, Indy Pro 2000, and the Indy Lights Championship this year. Now he's moving on to the NTT IndyCar Series full time. Some people see Kirkwood's potential as a driver similar to what we saw with Joseph Newgarden or Colton Herta. I'm sure Andretti really hate they let him get away, but they really didn't have a place for him within the organization. While Kirkwood won't be in one of the top cars in the series, he goes to a rebuild at AJ Foyt Racing, trying to make their cars faster and more competitive. In a way, Foyt signing a Kirkwood seems similar to having the number one overall pick in the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL draft, whatever sport you like, as a cornerstone to build their team around. Kyle Kirkwood is like that franchise player that you take at the very top of the draft. So here's my question. Could you see Kirkwood staying with Foyt long term, helping bring them closer to the front of the grid on a weekly basis? Or will a return to Andretti be in the works if a future seat opens up with that organization?
I believe Kyle Kirkwood, if he has a strong year this year at next year at AJ Foyt Racing, I think he could stay there and be a great talent for that team. You talked about everything that Kyle Kirkwood has accomplished. That's his resume is pretty incredible. And now he's moving over to AJ Foyt Racing, and like I said, AJ Foyt's one of the greatest IndyCar drivers in history. And Larry Foyt is behind that team right now, so I believe maybe down the road, I believe Kyle Kirkwood will stay at AJ Foyt Racing, and maybe down the road we'll see that number 14 car back in victory lane again. Everyone remembers when AJ Foyt drove the IndyCar Series and how much he was and how successful he was. I believe Kyle Kirkwood could go down that path as well.
Yes, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how Kyle Kirkwood performs in 2022 and in the future as well. I really think whatever future Kyle Kirkwood has after 2022 is definitely going to depend on what happens next season, the type of people they surround him around. Because definitely, I feel like this is the one. If you're gonna pick one young driver to build your entire program around, it's definitely this kid, Kyle Kirkwood, because he's been honestly one of the most dominant drivers you've ever seen on the road to Indy. And and I alluded to, I know people hate using the using motorsports and the other sports as an example, but I really do feel like that this is like your number one overall pick in the NFL draft. This is your franchise quarterback, somebody who you can really build a team around. And if AJ Foyt Racing can get the right people around this kid, show promise that show that they can build him competitive cars, turn him into a weekly contender. Maybe this is where you see a resurgence of AJ Foyt Racing and potentially become a top team in the NTT IndyCar Series in the future. And and if Kyle Kirkwood goes out there overperforms in that equipment next year, he'll have a tough decision to make. Does he want to keep the good times rolling and really bring this team turn this team into a true powerhouse in modern IndyCar era? Or if a seat opens up at Andretti, let's speak hypothetically, say Alexander Rossi and Andretti failed to rediscover their magic, would he potentially walk away from that number 27 Honda? And if that seat opens up, I'm sure Andretti would definitely have Kyle Kirkwood at the top of his list, or even Team Penske, or Arrow McLaren SP. I think that could be potential destination. Motorsport.com reported that at one point Kirkwood was in talks of running select races in the third Arrow McLaren SP Chevrolets, and I know they'd really like to have a young driver as well. Look at Chip Ganassi racing. Scott Dixon's not going to be racing for much longer, so and they'll need a replacement at number 9 Honda. So could Chip Ganassi swing at the young American driver to replace the Iceman inside the Ganassi IndyCar organization? So I definitely think sky is the limit for Kyle Kirkwood, and he's definitely going to have a lot of options in the future if he doesn't stay with Ford after 2022. I'm sure a lot of those teams I just mentioned would be really interested in his services. And speaking about Andretti Autosport, their 2022 Indy Lights lineup is really beginning to take shape. Previously, they announced that Stingray Robb would join the Indy Lights team, driving the number 2 Dallara. And Stingray Robb, who I think has one of the coolest names in motorsports, previously raced at Juncos Racing, and now Andretti. They've signed Hunter McElroy to drive the number 27 Dallara as Stingray Robb's teammate, and McElroy finished third in this year's Indy Pro 2000 Championship. Next, here's Adam for some Supercars news.
Thanks, Kobe. The Bathurst 1000 grid is now officially complete, as it was announced that Kirk Kosecki would be teaming up with his younger brother Jake at Mastodon Racing. So now we can say the official full 26, 52 car, 52 driver lineup for the great race is now complete. This year's 26 car grid will feature 13 drivers who have won this legendary race at Mount Panorama, with the most successful driver being Greg Lowndes, who has won 7 races at Bathurst. And in other news, we all know that Brock Feeney is taking over for Jamie Whincup next year at AAA Race Engineering. But who's going to take over for Brock Feeney in the Dunlop Super 2 Series? Well, they found their driver. He's a former Australian karting champion, a former Australia Formula Ford champion, and he's currently leading the Porsche Carrera Cup Australia standing. His name was Cameron Hill, and as a young lad, he watched Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes on TV, and he wanted to drive for that team really badly. Well, he gets his chance. So we'll see if Cameron Hill can become the next great superstar at AAA Race Engineering. And speaking of supercars, it's time for Pick a Winner. And we have one race to choose from, and that's race 1 for the Repco Supercar Series from Sydney Motorsports Park. As you can see on the screen, it's a tight battle among the top three between Joe, myself, and Kobe. So, Kobe, I'll start with you. Who wins race 1 at Sydney Motorsports Park?
Believe it or not, I'm actually not going to pick Shane Van Gisbergen. I think all of the momentum is riding with Dick Johnson Racing, and I think the young gun Antoine De Pasquale is going to get it done in race 1 and keep the good times rolling.
That's a very good pick. But I got to go with another driver who last time won, and it was his first win since Tasmania earlier this season. I'm going with SVG's teammate, the outgoing 7-time series champion, Jamie Whincup, to take race 1. And be sure to watch the pre-race show on Saturday as we do our pick winner for races 2 and 3. And Sunday on the wrap-up show, we'll recap all the action from Sydney Motorsports Park. Another successful show here on Grid tonight. And now throw it back to my colleague Kobe for the closing.
Please be sure to like and subscribe to GRIDnet. We're here on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We encourage you to visit our Patreon page and invest in GRIDnet. Big shout out to Colin, Mark, Michelle, and Robin for supporting us. We greatly appreciate it. And be sure to check out Pobless. Please consider spoiling your furry friend. They have dog leashes, clothing, and accessories for dogs of all sizes. 10% of your purchase goes towards helping homeless, sick, and rescue dogs. Please visit public.com, the stock market social media home. The link below and referral code gives you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to invest in the stock market. And we also want to welcome our brand new sponsor, Buy Me a Coffee. Click on the link in the video description below, and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. Any amount you give will help us significantly as we continue growing our motorsports media outlet. On Thursday morning, check out our new episode of the Women Racing the Win with Daniel Zeri from Races with Girls Behind the Helmet and Joe Samniego. Saturday, you can catch Grid Live pre-race at noon Eastern. But before, we're going to be having a special IMSA Motul Petit Le Mans preview show airing 1 hour before Grid Live pre-race at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right before the main program. Then Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up 90 minutes after the Formula One race ends in Brazil. For Adam Lemerise, I'm Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.